Good morning. It is now 10 minutes before the top of the hour, and it's time now for your storm watch. Well, coming up in just a few moments, we will check out the possibility for more strong thunderstorms. In the meantime, though, let's see what's brewing in the tropics. And still making weather headlines today is Hurricane Alberto. And Alberto has been strengthening. It is now up to 85-mile-per-hour winds. It continues to move off towards the north-northwest at some 18 miles per hour. And right now it is passing well to the east of Bermuda, so that's definitely some great news. But again, Alberto does look fairly impressive from our satellite perspective, a very discernible eye right around the hurricane center. And we don't think there's going to be much change in the intensity regarding Alberto, at least for the next 24 hours or so, and generally more or less tracking off in a northerly fashion, and that probably will continue at least for today. Now, just to the west of Alberto, though, still some very interesting weather. We have an old tropical wave that continues to brew some scattered showers and thunderstorms very close to the Bahamas and around the Bermuda area. And then just to the west of that, we have the leftovers from what used to be our tropical depression off the east coast of Florida. And here's another satellite perspective of that. Again, Alberto, another area of disturbed weather. And again, the leftovers from what used to be our tropical depression. Aside from that, a few more tropical waves coming off the African coast. So all in all, we've been seeing a fairly active weather pattern throughout the tropical realms. But again, back to our tropical depression. This tropical depression has now fizzled apart, no longer tropical depression. The last advisory was issued as of last night. And at that point, the winds were down to 25 miles per hour, so further weakening is likely. So again, no longer posing any threat or concern to Florida as the leftovers from that tropical depression continue to pull back over the open waters of the Atlantic. But back across the Gulf of Mexico, we have been seeing a flare-up of some showers and storms, primarily across the Bay of Campeche and around the Yucatan Peninsula, with more scattered showers, too, flaring up across the northern Gulf. And with water temperatures very warm throughout this region, it's certainly an area that we'll have to watch rather closely. We also see more areas of disturbed weather tracking through western sections of the Caribbean with more scattered showers. But overall, the islands are not looking that terribly bad. Just a few passing clouds right now for Puerto Rico and a few more clouds skimming across the Lesser Antilles. Then there's another tropical wave coming off the African coast, this one now very close to the Cape Verde Islands, and it continues to track westbound, right now not showing much in the way of organization. In the eastern Pacific, though, we have a newly formed tropical depression, number 10E. This one with winds of 35 miles per hour. And the good news with this, the forecast track does take it continuing off towards the west, so that would take it away from land areas. And that's definitely some encouraging news. But here, too, we've also seen some fairly warm waters, so further strengthening may be possible with this particular tropical depression. But again, not really causing much effect over land areas at the time being. And as we head towards the western Pacific, we've had the leftovers from what used to be Typhoon Gilma. Well, the leftover tropical moisture continues to produce some very heavy rains for parts of mainland China. But aside from that, another system. This has been really a rapidly developing storm. It used to be a tropical storm. Now it's a typhoon. And it's really causing some very squally conditions across the open waters of the western Pacific. Now, the forecast with this typhoon is that it will continue to move off generally towards the north-northwest and may eventually impact the southern fringes of Japan, probably in the next couple of days or so. So that is definitely a feature that we'll have to watch very, very closely. Well, now let's switch gears. We go from the tropics. We head back to the lower 48. And today we could see a few more strong thunderstorms erupting, which could pose some problems for some of you. Now, at least for the western states, the showers and storms today may be rather few and far between. But don't be surprised to see some hefty ones gearing up for portions of eastern Montana and eventually spilling out across the Dakotas a little bit later. And still, the east may see a strong thunderstorm or two before the day is over. We're still tracking an old frontal boundary sagging its way through the Mid-South and the Tennessee Valley. And with the front combining with some deep tropical moisture lurking across the Gulf coastal region, the stage will be set for more showers and storms. Yesterday, some rather heavy ones broke out during the late night hours. We did have reports of some hail near the Atlanta metro area around the Roswell vicinity, so some of these showers and thunderstorms could pack a wallop. And with our front slowly sinking southward, more showers and more thunderstorms will be a good bet. And some of these could be producing some very beneficial rains across the south, and more showers and storms, too, likely to develop across the northeast a little bit later this afternoon, so keep that in mind around New York City. Well, what about the upcoming weekend? Let's check out that forecast with Rick.
Well, heat and humidity will be the main story through the nation's midsection, and it will be cool and showery for the northeast. But for the Great Lakes region, nice conditions for the Buick Open, for example, and Grand Blanc. Saturday should be in the low 80s. partly sunny skies, but thunderstorms are possible for Music Fest. While it should be dry for the RC8 championships, though some rain and cool summer weather in Newport, Rhode Island for the Jazz Festival, only 73 degrees on Sunday. The national forecast, while that upper level low gets set and takes shape and stays put in the northeast. On Saturday, showers and thunder showers, 60s and 70s, while it's blazing heat in the nation's midsection Saturday and again right here on Sunday.
Your forecast. Your extended forecast.
It is now 9 minutes before the top of the hour. Thanks for joining us here at the Weather Channel. I'm Kelly Cass. Thanks for joining us for Storm Watch. We'll also take a look at the tropics, where usually this time of year, things really start to heat up, especially in the Atlantic Basin. For more on that, let's turn it over to our hurricane expert, John Hope.
Well, thank you, Kelly. Good morning, everybody. Yes, the tropics are beginning to heat up a little bit, but the good news out there is that we don't really have anything out there yet today that we would consider threatening to any land areas at all. Let's go ahead and show you a satellite picture here of the western Atlantic. Yesterday, you recall, we did have a tropical depression out there. Well, happy to say that tropical depression is no longer a depression. Right here, you see the remnants of it, and it's not as well organized as it was yesterday. We can't see that low-level circulation. Meanwhile, on the other, out here southeast of Cape Hatteras, about 300 miles, we do have a vortex here that we can see rotating around. But the good thing about that is that it's all low clouds. It doesn't have any showers or thunderstorms in it, so we don't think that's going to develop very much. In any case, all these systems out here are moving now toward the northeast, which means that they are moving away from the United States, so they certainly aren't going to be any threat whatsoever. Alberto is 85-mile-an-hour hurricane, but it's out here in the mid-Atlantic now, 345 miles east of Bermuda. That's as close as it ever got to Bermuda, and the closest it ever got to any populated area, actually. It's moving toward the north. It's forecast to turn now toward the northeast and move out over the North Atlantic and really be of concern only to shipping in the foreseeable future. Here it is, hanging together very well. A very well-defined hurricane might pick up a little bit of strength in the next full 12 hours or so, but then it's going to begin to encounter cooler water, and at that point we expect it to begin to weaken. Now, we have a system here in the Caribbean Sea and over the Yucatan Peninsula that we're watching with some interest. This is drifting toward the northwest. We think it will move out over the Bay of Campeche, and when it does that, we believe it does have a chance to get better organized, so we need to watch that, but nothing right away, nothing in the next 12 to 24 hours. And meanwhile, off the coast of Africa, we have a very well-developed system. I wanted to show you this visible picture because we can see the rotation. This is several hundred miles west of the Cape Verde Islands, which are right here, and it's moving toward the west, and we think there's a good chance that this will be a tropical depression in the next day or so, but it's a long way away from any islands. Meanwhile, we have a tropical depression off the west coast of Mexico, not getting organized very rapidly at all, moving on toward the west. We think it will get to be a tropical storm anyway, but not really affect any land areas at all. And finally, we have another typhoon out in the Pacific that's approaching Japan. Looks like it's weakened a little bit, but next 3 or 4 days is expected to encounter Japan and in the Tokyo area, probably more like the next 2 days for that. That will do it this time for the tropics. Now let's get back to Kelly and find out about the outlook for thunderstorms today.
Unfortunately, John, our thunderstorm activity will not be quite as widespread as it was yesterday. We had lots of reports of wind and hail damage through the Tennessee Valley into the southeast, and even a possible tornado right near downtown New Orleans. Well, today we still have a pretty unstable atmosphere here, but look at the drier air that's working its way down into the southeast. Good news for you in Atlanta, it won't be quite as hot as it was yesterday with temperatures in the mid-90s. But as we take a look at our lightning strikes, fairly active here out over the Gulf waters and also here in upstate New York. Some pretty strong thunderstorms rumbling across the Empire State, and that's where our travel trouble spot is for today. So be careful traveling the New York State Thruway as well as the Northway. As you can see, we have storms going just to the east of Watertown, and some of those storms could have some gusty winds and also some heavy downpours, so watch out for that. And also in the southeast, we're dealing with a few showers and thunderstorms too. We'll have much more on that coming up on Weather Center.
Can your business afford downtime due to bad power? Can your enterprise avoid power disruptions? Who ensures availability for more networks worldwide? APC. Power management solutions wherever data is created, transmitted, or stored. For a free downtime analysis, go to iwantapc.com.
Your forecast. Expect a chance of rain on Sunday and Monday, and on Tuesday, expect mostly cloudy skies.
It is time now for a storm watch, and we're going to check your tropical update as well. We'll start first in the tropics, and a reminder that this is sponsored by American Power Conversion. We are going to start out in the Atlantic Basin, and we'll show you a few entities out here. First of all, if you're just tuning in for the first time in, say, the last 12 hours or so, our tropical depression that was off the Florida coast has dissipated, and we are left with just some remnants here, but a little bit convection, but not much happening with that. You remember there was an entity just to the east of that, and that had very little convection, but it does now have a little bit of low-level circulation and all that across this region. So a little bit of a low-level circulation, and then further south of that, what is left of our tropical depression. All of this, by the way, is moving away from the U.S. It gets pushed off to the north and east, so not a concern. Again, we do have a hurricane out here. This is not a concern either. Here's Bermuda, and notice that this is passing well to the east of Bermuda, moving north, and then eventually it's going to head off to the northeast and become extratropical. In other words, it's going to lose its tropical characteristics, but very well defined. It has strengthened a bit and may even strengthen a bit more in the next 12 to 24 hours before it loses those tropical characteristics. Of course, I'm talking about Hurricane Alberto, and here are the latest coordinates. I know some of you will be plotting at home. It is 385 miles to the east-northeast of Bermuda with winds of 105 miles per hour. So it's into a Category 2. It's moving to the north at 14 miles per hour, the estimated central pressure at 970 millibars. I'm going to take you further east now. We'll watch another wave now moving to the west of the Cape Verde Islands, and this stands a chance of maybe becoming a tropical depression, so we are going to keep an eye out for this and watch for more organization and see if those thunderstorms remain intact. And then as we go on into the central Atlantic, not a lot happening. This is the wave that I just showed you, and that's going to be heading off to the west. And a quick reminder that if something does develop here,
here. We're talking days and days away from the islands and away from the U.S., so it leaves us plenty of time to monitor that situation. A little closer to home and through the Bay of Campeche, we're watching here too some of this convection firing up and refiring. We've got a wave moving through. We'll keep an eye on this region. If we see those thunderstorms remaining in place for the next several days, it might be something to bear watching. So we'll keep an eye out for that. The rest of the Gulf, not looking too bad. Finally, out into the Pacific, this is probably what catches your eye. This is our latest tropical depression, number 10E in the eastern Pacific. 365 miles to the south of Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. Sustained winds with this of 35 miles per hour, and chances are this will slowly get its act together, but it, too, is moving away from land. All right, let's go to the lower 48 and focus on some thunderstorms. Stormy weather erupting into parts of the west, even into Montana. The potential for strong storms. We'll take you on into the northeast first, though, and we'll look at some of these showers and storms encroaching on New York City and working into the Berkshires. Some rather luminous lightning occurring right now. Yonkers seeing some rain all the way up toward White Plains. You can look out your window, and off to the west, some lightning. And you're going to find some of that moving into New York City as we go into the next half hour or so. Flash flood watches are in effect all the way back down here into Long Island, so keep an eye out for that, and into Rockland County. Flash flood warning in effect. We'll take you southward into Florida. Northernmost Florida could see some stronger thunderstorms. Coastal areas of the Carolinas getting hit hard with heavy rain and frequent lightning. And again, we'll be watching the north central states for the potential for...
This program was sponsored by APC, providing power protection for more networks worldwide.
Do you know the facts about power? Do you know how to safeguard your computer? Who protects more networks worldwide? APC, ensuring availability in your home or wherever data is created, transmitted, or stored. For your free power risk analysis, go to iwantapc.com.
Global crossing. It's what happens when the most robust global network...
Thanks for joining us for this edition of Storm Watch. I'm Sharon Resulton. We're going to start things out first with your tropical update. And again, a lot of activity here in the tropics that may be along the line affecting some of you with time. We have to wait and see. Well, most of the Atlantic Basin is relatively quiet as we peek into the central Atlantic, but we get a little closer to home. We'll be investigating the Bay of Campeche. We're going to be talking more about the southwestern Atlantic and also the eastern Atlantic. And we'll start first with the western Atlantic. Here, of course, is our hurricane. This is Hurricane Alberto. More on that in a moment. In case you don't remember, we had a tropical depression this time yesterday just off the coast of Florida, just about dissipating by this time yesterday, and has indeed dissipated, and now a lot of that energy is moving northward, some of it remaining behind. We had an entity to the east of that produced a lot of clouds, a little bit of low-level circulation that is shooting off to the northeast. In other words, remaining offshore, because the general flow with the trough digging in the eastern U.S. kind of pushing everything and deflecting it off to the north and east. And that's exactly where Alberto is headed. Alberto, by the way, up to 110 mile per hour winds. This has strengthened a bit more during the day Friday. It is moving to the north-northeast at 18 miles per hour. The estimated central pressure, 965 millibars. If you're plotting at home, there are the coordinates where Alberto is centered. And by the way, this is well to the east of Bermuda. And you can see it's moving away from Bermuda well to the east of the U.S. So this is no threat to us whatsoever. We're just watching it spinning. Eventually it will continue to move northward and become extratropical. It will lose its tropical characteristics as it gets out over cooler water. Now we're going to take you on a tour of the tropics. We'll start in the eastern Atlantic. Here's Africa. and the Cape Verde Islands, and we're finding this wave still holding together. Now, we're losing some of the convection, at least for the time being, but sometimes this can pulsate. We'll watch for convection for this as we go through the day Saturday. We're also going to watch and see if we find any low-level circulation. That has a chance of perhaps developing into something. And there it is. That's another inspection. But further west, not a whole lot to talk about here. We'll go all the way into the Bay of Campeche. Here's the Gulf of Mexico, Bay of Campeche. Another wave moving off the Yucatan, moving into a favorable spot for development this time of the year. So this will bear some watching as well. Let's go ahead and skip over to the Pacific. Looking pretty good here. This is our latest tropical storm in the eastern Pacific. This is Tropical Storm Hector, centered at 18.7 north, 113.7 west. Well to the southwest of Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. It is moving to the west-northwest at 15. That movement should continue. Sustained winds now of 40 miles per hour, and this does have a chance of strengthening a bit more. But again, it's moving away from land, so it is not a threat to Mexico. There again, a look at their lower 48. A few showers here. More of a lightning show for many of you folks here in the Four Corners region. The showers are very light, associated with many of those radar blips that you see. Showers and thunderstorms that have been affecting you along the southeast coast, finally pushing offshore, and many of those showers are dissipating and keeping the rain going here. You've had one batch of rain moving through New York City. Now the heaviest stuff affecting you into Connecticut and central and western Massachusetts. Fairfield and New Haven counties in Connecticut, flash flood warnings in effect for you. Very heavy rain falling on the order of a good 3 and 4 inches in some spots of southern New England. So keep that in mind. If you happen to encounter water over a roadway as you're driving this evening or overnight, turn around, find an alternate route. You do not want to drive through water-covered roadways. So again, we've got some heavy rain, a few thunderstorms here. Any thunderstorms you see will probably produce not only some torrential downpours, but some gusty winds. By the way, Boston, you have not seen any of this rain yet. It will be moving in after midnight and even on into Saturday.
It is a hurricane. Hurricane Alberto has actually been strengthening a bit, but